Welcome back to Unrendered. I'm chatting with Mr. Ormiston Kenboy, and we are looking at some of his politics and what he did in the past as a politician. Mr. Boy, PPM, you contested the 2001 election. The party that you led, Starkey John, was your deputy leader, I think. In retrospect, was the PPM stillborn?
Not really. If I was like other people without other ambitions, the PPM would have been still going. But I can't sit around. If the people reject me, and this is what I find difficult today. You have two people, Mr. Mitchell included with Mr. Eustace, who were rejected at the polls. In no other country could I think they would still be offering themselves for. Either they moved on to something new, or the people said no in that time. Why are you still forcing yourself? You see,
I'm not sure I'm getting your point.
The point is this. Because of my other activities, I couldn't sit and be a politician for 5 years, 10 years. Look at what I've done in that period. I've gone out and done business. I've looked at my business. You know, to me, if a guy comes to me and he says, look, I lost this election, but I'm going to sit around and wait until the other people make a mistake, and I'll get another chance. I mean, what? I mean, Mr. Mitchell didn't. He went on. He did this, but what could you expect from that person? They've done nothing but sit around. I mean, you're going to tell me that after 10 years, have you ever seen this in Britain or anywhere else? Yeah. A person loses an election, and 10 years later, he's still the man saying to me, "You made your mistake in 1998."
Well, that's the way you look at it. But take, for example, Prime Minister Gonsalves today. I mean, he has spent a long time out there.
Not as Prime Minister. Not in the early days to get into power.
So he did that.
He was a young, but it's different. You go where.
Are you suggesting that if Prime Minister Gonsalves loses this next elections,
I doubt whether he would come back. I'd be disappointed. If he loses this election, he could become a coach to his young people that I saw on television with him, you know, the Michelle Fifes and Luke Browns and so. But I don't think that I could expect Gonsalves to stick around the corridors of power waiting for a chance to get back at Annie Eustace or something. I think it gives a bad impression of the party, that here is a party so stale that the same person who ran for you, who was thrown out of office 10 years ago, is still your leader.
And hoping to come back into power.
I mean, how could I have sat around and run my Kentucky and wait everybody come in and say, boy, I'm coming back next time, wait for me. You got to move on.
So that's your reason
for my reason,
moving on from the PPM.
Exactly. But the PPM, I have to give you this, the PPM was the embodiment of the ideas that Starkey Unite. We always thought that politics was too divisive. I hear it coming out these days about meritocracy. When I use that word, I was being asked how to spell it. People didn't believe in this meritocracy. I still think that we are too small a country to be divided as we are. Even if we all came together.
How do you change that in a competitive
you have to go out and
landscape?
You have to go out and look at how the Taiwanese have achieved things. Their workforce seems to be separate from their political thing. The Taiwanese, I've just come back from a visit to Taiwan. I am so impressed with the work attitudes, the way in which they hold their country and they move forward. They work hours, there are no Sundays, Saturdays, people work nights, there's a shift always going.
Is this because part of their history had a smacking of what we call communism? Is it?
Well, they were the ones who broke away from communism and went there. But there is a national pride. There's a pride there that is driving them to work harder, and they're achieving it. And they set up things. couple Sundays ago, on the 10th, was the independence celebration. I was at the president's reception.
Yes.
And I saw 3 young boys that I didn't understand, and they came up to talk to me. They were the top physics students in the country. And it's a tradition of the president at any important function to acknowledge education, to acknowledge the guys who are bright and who are doing. And I felt we could have done that. Yes, politics is necessary. Yes, we need to have elections every 5 years, but not at this nasty level, not at this where you attack people. I think you need to go as far as to attack a guy knowing that the day after you should be able to put your arm around him and shake his hand.
But this seemed to be ingrained in our culture. I mean, where do we start to break that?
Well, the PPM was the opportunity, and I think the people lost that opportunity. The PPM was an opportunity to say, look, yes, we have different thoughts about how we should go down that road, but in the end, we're all Vincentians. And not only that, we don't have enough brain power to be divided by 2. Even if we all work together, we'd still be lagging behind India and all these countries with massive education programs, Taiwan and so. Even if we came together. So why are we splitting ourselves up in this hardcore, knock him down? I mean, when I listen to the radio at night, I feel bad. I look out in the mornings and I see the beautiful Grenadines, I see the mountain views. But at night, what I hear on the radio pains me right through the core.
You have been often, and you still do, expose a lot of ideas about how we can better our economy. Mm-hmm. At one time you were speaking of the Chilean model, which I think is essentially a dynamic, market-driven economy.
Well, it's not only
characterized by foreign exports.
Not only market-driven.
Foreign trade.
Our biggest problem is the ability to start up. The people with the brains to start up don't have the will to do a mom and pops. A guy comes back from university and he has good ideas, but to tell him to go and start cleaning tables at a Kentucky Fried Chicken, he doesn't want that. Our style is that if you got education, you should have a corner office and you should go to work in a tie. Now, what the Chileans did, realizing this set up a foundation to start up businesses, to get through that rough period of when you can't get bank loans and this and that. And once those businesses started booming, they would sell them to the managers or the private sector people and let them, and this is still our problem. Our problem today, startup capital, startup know-how, so you had one group of guys who were brought back from Chicago School of Business or whatever, and they helped to formulate what are the things we are good at, what could we do? Yeah. And once that is started, they then handed it over to the private sector, because right now it is very, very difficult for a young man to give up his job. When I gave up my job at St. Vincent Electricity, I was working with CDC, with a pension in England. I gave that up to go to the flour mill. My mother cried for 2 weeks non-stop.
She couldn't understand why you wanted to change something that was
that I had so settled
yes.
to go into selling flour and going, so it's how do we get over this? Yes. And we're not going to get over it by fighting each other at politics.
The World Economic Forum had a report, 2009-2010, saying that Chile as a country was the 30th most competitive country in the world. And first in Latin America, ahead of
Taiwan,
Argentina.
The 14th. Yeah. So it's you look at Chile was their model. Taiwan, it's the model plus the people's drive and hard work. I mean, when you go there and see the voluntary acceptance of motor scooters as a way of transport, to save fuel, to save the greenhouse gases and that sort of thing.
As opposed to us who are just accumulating SUV after SUV.
Everybody has to drive an SUV, even if he's alone. That sacrifice to the greater good it's something that I came away from Taiwan with a lot of strong feeling. And the model for Chile, nobody could ever tell me that that would not have worked in St. Vincent. But, you know, it got shut down. And
well, you are currently an observer. You're not in the arena as a political gladiator. But just about every person that is commentating on politics or politicians themselves that come on this program, I'd like to solicit their views on the international airport development. This is a critical
it is critical. And
feather in the ULP's cap, as they would expose.
Again, before Ralph Gonsalves,
Yes.
I didn't think it was possible to borrow money to do that airport. His coalition of the willing and his method of foreign policy that got us so far brought the dream. I'd written an article once to say that our way forward is to have a 30-year view of developing an airport. He's brought it into context within a 5-year view by getting this extra help.
Because a lot of his success is going to be depending on his foreign policies. The way he can get assistance from places that we have not developed deep relationships with before.
And you see people like, I've just come back from Taiwan, and part of my mission there was to encourage the Taiwanese who just built Mayanesville complex to take on the airport terminal building, because Taiwan has given the money. And I think it could be done. Those people are stretched. Their headquarters in the Caribbean is in Haiti, and with the Haiti problems, they have so much work and they're stretched a little bit, and it's difficult for them to just say yes. But I still haven't given up hope.
Ken, we're going to go to a break. When we come back, I want to continue this issue of the airport. I want to hear your views on how it's going to impact the economy when we come back from the break. You're looking at Unrendered, and my guest is Ormiston Ken Boyea. More with Mr. Boyea when we come back from the break.